Player choice is just what it sounds like. It's when the player is given the choice to act a certain way, or do a certain thing in order to change the outcome or flow of the story, or change the world around them. Today I'm joined by Minimme. We're going to be going through some examples, along with just some general stuff that I'd like to say about player choice in games. Enjoy! Now, you know I couldn't resist mentioning Half-Life, the first one that is. This game's very different from its sequel, in that it allows friendly fire. Now, this is a pretty small example, but you can choose to kill or spare NPCs, with different effects. An escorted scientist may open a door for you, or provide you with a good old suck of green juice that perks you up. A security guard, on the other hand, can lead you to an otherwise inaccessible security room full of guns, grenades, and all that good stuff. So I guess either you want some extra stuff, or you're really ready to waste that scientist for accusing you of eating all the donuts. Killing and sparing is also one of the few ways that players are given a way to express their character. Definitely not groundbreaking stuff, but it's a favourite of mine. Also, you can chunk people. Another game that handles the protagonist very similarly to Half-Life is Hitman.
A typical level from the Hitman series comprises itself of an area full of people doing their own routines and just generally living their lives. You're given a target or targets to take out, given some other objectives, dropped into the level, and then completely left to your own devices to figure out how to complete the mission. There's something so freeing about being able to blend in and observe the world around you at your own pace to figure out your very own logical way of beating the mission. Whether you go in guns blazing, completely silent, or somewhere in between, it's remarkable how the Hitman games always remain challenging, and the intensity of each mission naturally ramps up as you complete objectives, despite it being so open-ended. I've always seen Agent 47 as a massive blank slate. Obviously he's not uninteresting, like he's literally a bioengineered assassin with a barcode on the back of his head, but they haven't really given him all that much character, and this is intentional. Naturally a comparison can be made to Gordon Freeman in that you simply embody Agent 47 as much as you can, both because he's so uncomplicated, and because with all the agency you're afforded in each level you really start to think like a hitman. And when they took that agency away and gave him a character in Hitman Absolution, the entire game completely fell apart. Thankfully, IO Interactive realized this with the latest game, and the series is back on track.
Grand Theft Auto 4 is another favourite of mine. It's not winning any prizes for complexity, but its choices really do hit hard. They may not be the most advanced, but it doesn't matter. Most boil down to doing the right thing or gaining something for yourself, apart from one or two. Not much for replayability, but it's more than you typically expect from a so-called crime or murder simulator. Something I really do like is how the severity of your choices vary. Some choices have a larger effect than you think, while others truly are ordinary. The less I say about the final choices, the better. If you don't want spoilers for a 10-year-old game, please look away now or return at this timestamp. My personal advice is that you experience it for yourself. Long story short, your final choices determine the death of either your cousin or your wife. So like I said, there may not be many choices, but they sure are memorable. This really adds to the game. You don't feel like you're playing as some monster, you feel like you're playing as a damaged person. Seeing how Nico reacts to the different choices you can make in the game further reinforces this. The events of the game change him.
Speaking of memorable choices, Deus Ex is one of my favourite games because every aspect of its design has player choice at its forefront. This truly is a game where no two playthroughs are the same, and you're given so many options in every single scenario. The levels are carefully designed to have multiple routes and clever enemy placement, and you're given so many tools at your disposal to get through them. Virtually every time you look around a corner in Deus Ex, your mind will start racing through all the possibilities you have, and it's really a treat to play. Even something as simple as getting through a locked door in Deus Ex comes with so many different options. The door has different attributes like lockpick difficulty and health, so maybe you could simply use a lockpick or blow it up with a rocket, but if you don't have a lockpick or a rocket, you might have to find the key somewhere or find an explosive lying around in the level and drag it to the door, or maybe there's a security system somewhere that you could hack into and open the door that way. You could just hide and wait for someone to open the door for you, or you could cause some chaos and prompt someone to open the door for you. It's this sort of design that's extended across the entire game, and it's amazing. The story adopts this in a great way too. Along with extensive dialogue options that genuinely impact the story, characters can die, and the writing will do its best to acknowledge this. Everything is supported by some endearingly cheesy writing and great atmosphere, and though Deus Ex might look a bit rubbish these days, I'm always amazed by how well it draws you in through its player-first design.
Fallout is obviously a huge example, my god. Since the first game, it's been known as a game that largely relies on your character, in that, in order for the game's events to take place, you must take an active role in the world, something certain people don't do. Whether it's setting up pure water, going after the men who left you for dead and in the process uncovering an even larger struggle, or simply living for yourself, working your way through quests to improve your character. It all feels good and right. It's like an RPG sandbox. In New Vegas, it is literally an RPG sandbox, or a desert if you're an intellectual. Involving the player character so much is a great move. After all, few things can convince us more of our place within the game universe than our actions having a direct effect on what's going on. Much like in the real world, I sure as hell cared more about the Battle of the Hoover Dam than many events in my life. Quests are often able to be completed through numerous ways, some of which don't even involve any kind of violence. So I guess you can complete the quest the way you would, whether that's chatting about sweet rolls and the inevitability of death, or blasting a hole in everyone's heads. Another thing is the presence of just so many killable NPCs. Obviously, a lot of areas are mostly made up of nameless strangers with less dimension than we'd hope for, but the sheer abundance of fleshed out characters that you're able to side with or go against is awesome. Our actions and choices have a direct effect on the opinions of individuals or groups, altering their actions, resulting in a story that is crafted for you, the player, along with, of course, the main quest line that you can either choose to take or ignore in most cases. It's satisfying to see the world adapt to you, but also extremely satisfying to feel a genuine hatred towards a certain character and finally getting that chance to literally blow their head into chunks. In a sense, that means the game is actually already better than real life. Granted, both of these things have decreased over game releases, resulting in a much more action-oriented cinematic experience, but it's still a lot of fun.
Spec Ops: The Line takes a different approach to this whole player choice thing in that it uses its complete lack of player choice as a storytelling device. It's hard to talk about this game without muting the impact of it. Like, I won't go into any specific scenes or anything, but if you haven't played this game and you're interested, I do spoil it a bit, and I'd recommend skipping to the timestamp on your screen right now and just going into this game blind. But yeah, Spec Ops: The Line is unlike other games on this list in that it's a very linear shooter that forces you to do some awful war crimes, and then it effectively makes you feel bad for doing them. I know that's an extremely reductive thing to say, like, it's handled more elegantly than it sounds, but it is what happens in this game. The game then gets a bit meta with this idea and tells you that you should have quit playing the game at any point, but you didn't. You kept doing all this horrible stuff because it was the only option, and you should have just quit. What came from this was a monumentally polarized response from players. A lot of people were just super frustrated by the whole experience, saying that turning the game off is a huge cop-out for what should be better writing, but personally I found Spec Ops: The Line to be a really effective and unique game. I think the themes it explores are handled really well, and it works as a sort of critique of other military shooters. Like, remember the airport scene from Modern Warfare 2? Where that was mostly included for shock value and then the game quickly moves on afterwards, Spec Ops: The Line makes you participate in similar things and then asks, why are these terrible events even in the game? And that's really fascinating to me. Regardless of what you think, Spec Ops: The Line is a fantastic example of the importance of player choice simply because audiences have responded to it so drastically.
A game that I would also say explores the morals of doing the right or wrong thing is Undertale. Undertale presents you with a cast of characters, weird and wonderful, good and evil, to explore, interact with, and all that good stuff. I'd like to say it's a lot like Fallout in that regard, but with heavier reliance on the characters themselves. Who you spare, kill, and stuff like that has a profound effect on the story, giving the player a great feeling of satisfaction and cause and effect, tailor-making an experience unique to you. Like other games on this list, the character you play as is a blank slate onto which we can etch and project our own personalities, and well, do what we would do. Games like this are great because you're not filling someone's boots, you're filling your own digital boots, represented by an ambiguous little sprite guy. The gameplay is simple, fresh, and fun, with a large portion of the challenge coming from the optional combat. But of course, this was not its most defining feature. Aside from the gameplay, the depth of the characters was vital to the game's success, with many superfans wishing they could be beamed down into that world to enjoy a real friendship with the characters. I mean, it goes so deep that I, for some reason, have a very graphic GIF thing of Sans doing a piss in my pictures folder. I personally didn't feel that attached, but it was very immersive and impressive. I felt genuinely bad when I killed characters I knew or later found out that I could otherwise spare, and seeing the world react to my actions was super satisfying and fun. Too often, games fall into the trap of trying too hard to make you feel for cardboard characters. Dead Island comes to mind. Undertale plays it straight, building characters up naturally and revealing interesting plot points along the way, giving you a hand in your own story, but also the stories of those around you. So, we've really made player choice sound like an undeniable positive. So if that's the case, why doesn't everyone incorporate choice into their games? Well, there are a few reasons. The first is the boring one, which is obviously just that it takes less time, money, and effort to write one story as opposed to like 21. On the other hand, things like the overall writing, structure, gameplay, and graphics of a game are better to spend time on than smaller details, as they're what's required as far as people are concerned. Nobody is going to be yelled at for developing a solid, fun game with a singular, linear, great story because they could have added choices or other endings. It's sometimes just not what the games are going for. Finally, player choice, if executed badly or put where it isn't needed, can really take away from the story itself and the main focus. It allows the writers less freedom with their story, instead opting to tell about 50 other possibilities that could be wrongly interpreted or messed up by the player. For example, players can actually screw the experience up for themselves in Fallout if they kill certain people without thinking. However, if it's done in the right type of game, in the right places, it can make a game as much as gameplay could. One thing I love about well-executed player choice is that it's based both in gameplay and story, overall expanding the game experience. And with that, I thank you for watching. If you like this video, leave a like, subscribe for more, and maybe even share it around. Don't forget to leave a comment about some of your favourite examples. There are just so many that could have been mentioned, but these were our favourites. Before I finish, here's a special thanks to my Patreon supporters, Axelski, Nova Castro, Tuna Burke Edgeder, Ross McKay, and the Game Studios. Patreon helps me more than you can imagine, and I have a nice list of rewards for anyone interested. Also, if you haven't already, please check out Minimme if you enjoyed his parts in the video, and generally just for similar content. I think you'll love what he does. With that said, again, thank you for watching. I hope to see you in the next one.